What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm coming at you with a little bit of a meta-analysis video talking about the format and how it's been developing ever since the release of Darkwing Blast, and sort of some key cards that are like either plaguing the format or about to plague the format. You know, there's a lot of things on the horizon as far as Yu-Gi-Oh is concerned. I feel like it's been a little bit since I did a meta-analysis. I recently did like a deck tier list for things post Darkwing Blast, but talking about the format in general is what I want to do. And I think it's been a little over a week since my last video, so I did take sort of a small little break there. Essentially, like, Overwatch 2 came out, and I have been playing a lot of that. For those who don't know, like, when Overwatch 1 came out, I played a lot of Overwatch 1. I was a top 500 tank main. Got top 100 with Reinhardt. I still have the little, spray from Season 3. I'm washed now, but I still enjoy to play the game, and that's been taking a lot of my time. Also, I wanted to do a bunch of deck profiles post Darkwing Blast, but I was going to go to a regional this weekend, and I ended up not going, but I didn't want to upload a profile for a deck I could be taking. But now that I know I'm not going to that, I will start uploading the Darkwing Blast profiles, so those should be on their way soon. Sorry for the little update for those that don't actually care, but I did want to sort of explain what I've been doing. But yeah, before we hop into this meta-analysis, I do want to let you guys know, Discord link down below along with all of our other social media links if you want to follow the channel more closely. Also, I am trying to climb the 10,000 subscriber ladder, maybe get to 20k sometime next year. So if you do enjoy this type of Yu-Gi-Oh content and you like what you see here, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and what I do here on the channel. And yeah, let's start talking about the meta and sort of how it's been developing, because this meta is an interesting one. So we left Power of the Elements format. The last event was Utrecht in it, in which we saw Runic Sprite win. So, Sprite is definitely a dominant force in the meta, but Darkwing Blast came with huge, not only staples for a lot of decks that I definitely will talk about a little bit, but huge support for Tearlament specifically being the most dominant force in the room, presumably. So the meta developed in a way where I think Tier's the best deck, and Sprite is like a second, and I wouldn't even say like a super close second, like close enough, but not like super crazy close. Runic Sprite's a very good deck, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think Tearlaments is a lot better with another set we all know by now, Mavens, on the horizon, which only makes Tearlament even better. Now, there's a card up on the screen I want to talk about that you guys have probably just been staring at, wondering why is Skullmark Ladybug on the screen. Because of where our format is, cards like this are huge problems. Before we do that, I want to talk about some of the staples that came in Darkwing Blast that are probably shifting the meta, or things that could, and things we've already been seeing. I mean, things like the Bestial monsters. In my last deck profile, I said Bestial. Someone corrected me and said they're like Bestial, like the way you say these are like that. I don't know how you say it. I've been saying Bestial, but we'll call them Bestials in this video. So obviously Bestials have been like insane already, showing their prowess, just being a huge, like, it's so ridiculous that a DD Crow can do so much, right? Like, DD Crow was a great card already in and of itself for countering things in the meta, great hand trap, and they put it on legs that also get pluses, and I still think the design of these cards absolutely horrendous. I despise these cards because they're in the game forever. We have to deal with these forever, and I think it's so terrible for the game. But regardless, that's what we have to adapt to and play with. Hopefully one day they're just shifted out of the meta or banned entirely. By banned, I mean like you limit Magnamute and then suddenly it's not a desirable engine. This isn't talking about Bestials. I don't think they're being put on the list for any reason for a long time. I was just expressing some griefs I have with the cards. We also have the man, the myth, the legend. Of course, Kshatriya Law Fenrir, Kashtira Fenrir. This card is huge, and like I think some people in the TCG especially have been sort of downplaying this card. And while I don't want to say it's like as toxic as something like the DPE engine was, it's a disgusting card in and of itself. I think this card is bonkers. It's definitely ridiculous. Its price point is ridiculous, but honestly worth it for how staple this card feels. It's a really nasty card that's super good. The Bestials and Fenrir, in my mind in particular, are very powerful, like, generic support cards that came out of Darkwing Blast and are affecting the current meta as we see it now. Like, they're being played in so many things. We saw YCS Minneapolis, which I think is the most recent tournament for our format that we should talk about. And yeah, I mean, they showed up in full force too. I believe Fenrir was in LeBlanc's deck, and I think the Bestials were in the side deck. I could be wrong about that. No, I'm pretty sure they were, but a lot of people were maining Bestials as well. They weren't just like a side deck option, and Fenrir was seeing his fair share of play there too. definitely left an impact on the meta. I do want to talk about Zelantis because me and my friend have been talking about how this card is just, that can't go there, how this card is a little too cheap for its price point right now. This card's insane. I've definitely been playing a lot of Marincess with this card because I absolutely love the interaction between you being waterlocked and banishing their entire field, or their monsters I should say, and them not coming back unless they're water. I think that's hilarious. Definitely a super good go second option for that deck. So I do want to talk about Zelantis and how I think he's a good card, but not anything too crazy. Now, more or less talking about format specifically now, not like the most recent things that happened that have been adjusting the format. Let's talk about the best decks in the room. So I'm going to remove these from a little screen here, and I'm going to go for Fountain as the picture here. You know, we'll go ahead and add a Slumber there too. You know, I think Tip would be better since I think more people recognize Tip. And then we'll talk about tier limits. So we have, let's get some main deck monsters in here. We get Rhino Heart. These are not released yet, but these cards, there's something else releasing in the future that we should know about. You know, let's go ahead and put Shaylin there as well to talk about tier and Runic Sprite in particular, not like pure Sprite or any other version of Sprite, although those can be good. I'm specifically talking about the Runic version, and I want to use that version not because I think it's the best, which I do think it's the best, but not for that reason. It's going to segue into what I want to talk about next, and one of the weirdest things that's happening this format that I'm really bothered by, but it's something, again, we have to adapt to and play with. Talking about Runic Sprite and Tier. So Tier Lament is an extremely powerful combo deck, as most of us know, and their turns take very long. Their turns, they combo for a while, and there's a lot of RNG involved that can make them either combo more or less, depending on what they hit. Although the deck's so consistent, sometimes the RNG is irrelevant. It's important, it's like worthy noting that your mills can affect how the deck is played. Not only that, they have what we call our turn, where they play on their turn, and they love to play on your turn as well, which means they're taking like 5 to 6 minutes a turn every turn. And you can see where I'm sort of trying to go with this is that takes forever. It's like Flunder, but longer, and I really don't like that. And they do a lot of searching, they have to shuffle back. The deck takes forever to play. Let's look at Runic Sprite, a deck that literally takes forever to play because they are removing their own battle phase. Essentially, if you're not scooping because their advantage is they're plus 10 on you with no way to lose the games can last 25 plus minutes because they just can't end you. There's no battle phase, right? So you have a deck that takes 5 to 6 minutes on each player's turn, and that if that goes 2 turns, it's 20 minutes in one game already. This deck that can take forever because it's an advantage-based deck that can't even attack you. Like, they're not slow playing you, they just physically cannot end the game. So one of the weirdest things I've seen happen in the longest time is, I'm just going to pull up some cards and you'll see why I sort of brought these cards up earlier. Let's bring these up because these are what I really want to talk about. So let's go ahead and move these down here. I accidentally sent Shaylin to the Shadow Realm, but we're not going to talk about that. This is something big I wanted to talk about this format, and like when I'm doing a meta analysis, is how powerful these cards that have never been like super prominent or super good, how powerful they are in this format. And it seems to be worse this format than any format we've had since the time rules existed, and in my perspective. Like, I came back in 2020, so I haven't seen, I think the new time rules released in 2018? I'm not quite sure on that date, but there were definitely some years where I wasn't playing with the new rules. However, this format is ridiculous. I think another one was Life Transfer. Do I want to add that one? I think these three, for me, are like the main three. Oh, you know what? There's Scarlight as well. Let's go talk about Scarlight. Yeah, these cards right here, they're just disgusting. And, like, let me explain why. So, back a little while ago, we go pre-Nationals format, even to when, like, Genesis Impact released at the start of 2021, so definitely going really far back. A little bit after that, I should say, sort of like the following months after Genesis Impact, Prank Kid's starting to pick up popularity after Phantom Rage, right? Because they got Meow. And that deck was sort of the first in a long line of catastrophes, I'll say, where a deck had such a powerful time win condition. Like, no one wanted to go into time with Prank Kids because they were gonna win. They had Dropsies and Lampsies that are doing damage, and it was really like the first bout with the time rules where people really saw that having a time win condition was an unfair advantage, especially for a deck like Prank Kids that can take forever to play and shuffle a lot and go through their deck 50,000 times. But it was like there was one deck in the room that had a time win condition. I was playing Earth Machine, so I technically had Gustav Max, and that was nice, but most decks didn't have one. Then Sword Soul got Long Yun, which was another one in the repertoire of burn damage and time. Then Marin says, they have Spring Girl that burn damage in time. As you can see, they started releasing more and more cards, like Evil Twin got Sunny Snitch, which is another time win condition. They started to release in-engine time win conditions, and it was becoming more prominent. But even then, it didn't seem like the biggest deal in the world because our format wasn't taking as long, in my opinion. Now, we have reached what I call the pinnacle of yuck, and that is the fact that we're playing Skullmarked Ladybug, we're playing Red Resonator, we're playing Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. I mean, not everyone is, but these cards have all seen meta play and success, and that is unheard of normally, right? You don't see these cards often. I guess I should mention Cowboy as well. People love to bring up Cowboy as sort of the generic time win condition meme, but yeah, these are cards I don't think any Yu-Gi-Oh player likes, but we're forced to play them because of the way the format is. The games take forever. And like you see, it's so funny. In every deck profile you see these cards in, they are placed on the table, the name is said, there is no information regarding these cards. You can't, like in deck profiles, you can't talk about these cards, which is what I really dislike the most about them, is like, everyone knows why they're in the deck, but you can't talk about why they're in the deck, which I think is something funny, but if you don't know why, I mean, that's up in the air for interpretation, but most people do not explain what the purpose of these cards is, but are. That was a grammatical error, but either way, you have to play these. You are forced to play these because the format is going to take so long. I guess not the format. The games in the format are taking so long. Like, you have to be summoning Red Resonator with Gigantic. If you don't have a way to access Ladybug, Resonator, any in-engine time win condition, you need to be playing something like Dogwood. Like recently, I had a Tearlament Paleozoic deck that I took to a regional, and I got top 4. I got second place with Paleo Tier, which I thought was super cool. And that deck, I had to play 3 Dogwood and 2 Skullmarked Ladybug because Paleo has always had a problem with time. The deck is a trap deck that takes forever to get rolling, and it grinds, and you can have game 1s that last 35 plus minutes, so you're forced to play these cards because the clock is ticking, right? And I feel like I'm rambling on about these too long. I wanted to do a more broad meta-analysis, but really the reason I wanted to do this video is to talk about where these are in the meta. Like, I'm disgusted by these cards, as most people are, but I want to sort of explain, like, why this meta, right? And I think that's what I've been trying to do for, like, the last 5-10 minutes. We have a format where the games are going long because we have Runic, we have Tier with our turn, no battle phase. Naturally, the games are going to take forever. Also, I guess we should add Mystic Mine to the equation, although Mystic Mine has been rearing its ugly head a little less, I feel like, since the last couple of weeks. Where honestly, even that one isn't a big deal, but that's another card that can make games last forever. Like, we're in a really interesting time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I think the overall format is fine, but there is a dark side to this format, being the time rules, and yeah, that's interesting. Talking about this format a little bit going forward, and this format is almost a fake format because it's going to last 3 weeks. It has from Utrecht, or not Utrecht, excuse me, from Minneapolis, and like the week before with the pre-release of Darkwing Blast, if you were playing Darkwing Blast format then, for about 3 to 4 weeks until Mavens comes out, and then it's an entirely new format, right? So we're in a little bit of a fake format, but I think it's a really interesting one to talk about because I personally think the format is like very fun outside of time, right? And I think a lot of my friends would agree with that. A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players in general would agree with that. Maybe it's like, this format is definitely way too powerful. Not enough decks are good. In my opinion, I prefer like the 20 plus deck formats. But a lot of people prefer the smaller formats where this one is not bad. And there's a lot of creativity within the 2 most powerful decks, so fair enough. But yeah, I wanted to talk about these. But going into sort of the future of the format, to sort of close this video off, not going to talk about it long, but yeah, Mavens is coming up. Again, this format, it didn't last long because we're going into a format where Tier undeniably is going to be the best deck. I feel like I can say that with a lot of confidence. Do I think it will be Tier 0? I don't want to say that. I'm not sure. I think Sprite will still be good. Sprite will maybe just find its way in tier limit versions, who knows. I think Naturia is actually pretty solid once the Ishizu cards come out as well. I'm just going to be playing the decks I want to play regardless. I'm going to be playing Labyrinth, I'm going to be playing Witchcrafter when the fusion comes out. All the decks that I upload to the channel that you guys know and love, I'm still going to be playing those, but it's going to be a lot harder to get wins in that format. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. I feel like it ended up being a video just ranting about time, but I wanted to phrase it in a way where it sort of relates to the format and what we're doing in the format now and why the format is what it is. Sorry if that's not exactly what you clicked on this video for, but it's what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.